Welcome back to the Neo Marketing Podcast. Today we're going to talk about an often ignored part of leadership, delegation.
Welcome to the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of best practices, latest trends, and modern techniques for professional business communication, including advertising, marketing, digital channels, social media, public relations, and alternative options.
Welcome back, Kyle. How are you?
Fantastic. Good to see you, Pritch.
Better to be seen than viewed, I always say.
Can you believe it? We made it through 2020.
And 21 is going to be a long one, too.
It's going to be something.
It's going to be something.
No matter what happens, though, we got to do our best.
Exactly. So we're back to a leadership topic that is of much interest to me, but one that you don't hear people talk very much about, and that's delegation. So what's that mean to you? When I say delegation, what's that mean to you?
Delegation means that to divide up responsibilities in order to be the most efficient in the chain of command.
Yeah, there's a lot in there to unpack for sure. But yeah, it's giving control. It's given authority, and we'll come back to that quite often.
For sure. And responsibility.
And responsibility.
For sure.
For a job, a duty, to another person. So it's offloading some of your responsibilities and providing someone else the opportunity to take that on.
I like it being described as an opportunity. That is exactly right.
Absolutely. But, so much of the time we think of delegation as, okay, here's a job, go do it for me. Right? It's a whole lot more than that. If done right, it's going to grow the culture. It's going to grow your business. It's going to grow the talent of the people that you've got around you.
And it's going to expand the opportunity to just produce work that creates value.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about some of the benefits here in just a little bit. But, it's not one of those characteristics that we think about. We think in terms of leadership. We jump to courage. We jump to resilience. We jump to boldness and determination. But we don't put delegation in
Even
that
when
same
you say the word
bunch.
leadership, you kind of picture in your head like that kind of proud, puffed chest, person up there at the front. Follow me, everyone. Here we go. And you're right. That's one aspect of leadership, but there's multiple aspects of leadership. And of course, delegation is absolutely one of them. It's sort of like one of those, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but it really gets stuff done.
It is one of the most quiet aspects of leadership.
Yes, I like that description a lot.
Absolutely. There are a couple of authors that have worked on that, and we'll put the info in the notes section here. But one of the comments that they made, and I love this, and I hope people take it to heart, right? A leader who insists on maintaining all control and authority is insecure.
I believe that.
People don't want to feel like they're insecure. So why don't you delegate? Right? Why do you have to have control? We're all type A's, right?
Right.
We need to have, I can do it better myself.
And I find, too, the smartest people, and we deal with some people that are scary smart.
Right.
The smarter someone is, the less likely, the less good they are at delegation.
Right.
Because they get in their head that because I'm a smart person, I have to do this.
Right. But let's talk about some benefits for you, the leader.
There you go.
First of all, it saves you time.
Yes, time management.
Time, I mean, you gotta, it gives you time to think about your goals. It gives you time to think about where you are in the marketplace. It gives you time, and you're not standing over the copy machine.
Right.
Is what I say, right?
Right.
It it will help you achieve more.
For sure. I like to use the term think like an owner.
Right.
People that think like employees, they come in, they clock in, and they get their job done. They clock out and they go home, and they don't think about the business. When you're the owner of the business, or when you're a leader, you're thinking about the business 24/7. You're always thinking about how to improve and do better and things like that. And so, if you're going to think like a leader and act like a leader and keep your thought process and your energies and effort and all those smarts we talked about earlier, right?
Right.
Focused on the high end, on moving the organization forward, about developing growth and really creating change that's positive for your organization, you can't be stuck in the operational aspects of it, because you can't do both at the same time.
Right.
You only have 24 hours in the day.
Right. And that's a great segue into another benefit for the leader, and that is that you're not spread so thin and you're not going to burn out as quickly.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, because you're talking about that owner perspective. I'm thinking about this 24/7. Well, if you're thinking about stuff that you could delegate, you're spread too thin.
This goes back to, again, like we talked about how smart people don't do these things well. People who consider themselves hustlers, people who are like, I'll put the effort in, I'll make the sacrifice. And I get it. I'm one of those guys, I mean, heck, my own personal podcast is the Saturday Morning Hustle, because I come in on Saturdays and I'm hustling, grinding. I'm on the hustle side of things. But even the greatest hustler, the most driven individual, can and will burn out.
Absolutely.
And the closer you get to that burnout, the less effective you are at what you do. Your brain and your skills do not operate on all cylinders when you're near burning out.
Absolutely.
You have to back off of that in order to be at your peak, and that is where it comes from, delegating all of these things that help you do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It also increases your value.
Yes.
As a leader.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because it enhances your credibility.
Right.
Right? By giving responsibility to others in your organization, you're helping them grow. You're also getting their respect and loyalty. Nobody wants to be an assumption, as Kouzes and Posner put it, right?
Yes, that's for sure.
So and then having extra time to think about those really challenging tasks that increases the value of the activities you're planning is huge. I mean, that's increased value for you.
So I've heard people describe leadership as the act of creating other leaders.
It absolutely is essentially a part of leadership.
So if that makes sense to you, if there's logic behind that you need other leaders in different aspects within your organization, you can't ever develop other leaders if you aren't delegating responsibility.
That's exactly right.
It starts with delegation.
And for the leader, another benefit is satisfaction.
Yes.
Satisfaction of watching your people grow. Satisfaction of watching your people be successful. And lastly, and you got to kind of look at this a little bit differently, but lastly, it's acquiring more experience in executive and administrative business functions.
Correct.
Because you got more time to pay attention to the business functions.
Yes.
Right.
But you're still applying those ideas. You're still looking at them. You're still kind of, if you will, touching and putting your fingers in things at a high level. You're not down in the
weeds.
Like you said, watching the copies come off the copy machine or unloading the trucks on the back dock.
Right.
But you are looking at the numbers and the efficiency and the tools in place, and can we do this better, and really looking at the high-end concept of it, which is what your job is as the leader, as opposed to someone who's somewhere else in the chain of command.
So let's look at the benefits for the team members.
Okay.
First of all, development.
Yes.
So leadership imperative that when you delegate, you teach your team members new skills.
Yes.
You give them the opportunity to develop themselves and their goals, and that makes them more versatile and more important to the team.
You know what else it does? This is an extra bonus, and people don't think about this enough, so really you're going to like this one. When you are in a process of developing someone in your organization, because you've delegated responsibilities to them, they're doing what you've asked them to do, the way you've asked them, what you just described. They're also bringing their perspective,
Absolutely.
their experience, their skill sets to it as well.
Absolutely.
And what they bring to the table combined with what you have organizationally set up for them now creates the opportunity for an even better version of what you've asked them to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The end product is going to be much better because of that diversity of thought and experience and whatnot.
Our earlier version of the episode of the podcast, I interviewed Corey Walker from Insight Partners. He's a staffing and talent acquisition specialist, amazing at what he does, has a really good thought process. And he was talking a lot about diversity, but not just that surface level diversity, but diversity of backgrounds and experiences and skill sets. And this is a great example here of if you're going to build a really effective organization, it's going to be a very diverse organization and not surface level diversity, but deeper and experience and background in a combination with a leader who is open to delegation and open to letting people bring what it is they bring to the table. That's where you get leadership of an organization that has the potential to grow and really be effective. An effective, growing organization is a successful organization.
Absolutely. 2 other benefits to team members: self-esteem.
Always a good thing.
Absolutely. When you give your team members responsibility, it shows that you trust them, you have confidence in them.
For sure.
And that buoys their self-esteem.
Yes.
Which is really a positive impact on workers.
So responsibility and self-esteem, when you have both, when you've been given responsibility by leadership, you feel confident in yourself and your ability to bring ideas and to do things the way the bosses ask, but also bringing those other aspects we discussed earlier and improve it and make it better. All of this now is how people start to shift their attitude from an employee to an ownership attitude. They buy in because you've given them that opportunity.
They're much more motivated to accomplish everybody's goals.
That's right. So now they're thinking about the job all the time. It's not a clock in, watch the clock out. Mm-hmm. They're more productive. They're going to bring you ideas, even if, and of course, right, we say all the time, you get more no's than yeses, right? So they're going to pitch ideas. Even if they don't, obviously, most of their ideas aren't going to get yeses because you get more no's than yeses. It's just how it happens. But you won't get that next great idea if you don't pitch over and over and over again, understanding that even when you get no's, it's okay because you're part of the process.
Right, exactly so. And that segues nicely into the third benefit, and that is job enhancement.
There you go.
If you're given more responsibility, not only does your self-esteem and motivation goes up, but your enjoyment of the work goes up.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute, Pritchard. We're not supposed to enjoy work.
Oh, you absolutely should enjoy work.
You absolutely should enjoy work.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And if you don't enjoy work, you're in the wrong job, or you have the wrong attitude about it. And it's the combination of the three things we just said is how ultimately when you think, wow, how does SpaceX with Elon Musk and how does Facebook and how these people that went from zero to some of the Apple, under Steve Jobs, how did they go from zero to being some of the most important business entities on the planet? These dynamic leaders built a team of leaders around them through these processes, and everyone who was right there next to that enigmatic, I'll say almost enigmatic, right? I don't know how I tripped over that word, but visionary leaders all felt elevated to that level by that leader through these steps right here. Yeah. It didn't happen in a vacuum, and it didn't happen singularity. Although we can say, you can name who the CEO of Facebook and the CEO of SpaceX, and you know who Steve Jobs was. Yeah. You know these people, but you also know everyone who was in their circle really brought value and then got value out of that job as well. Whether it was making a lot of money or being able to go on and do other things in their career that they were interested in as well.
Well, and they did have a vision that was more than just making money.
Yes.
Too. So there are advantages to the team. We've talked about for the leader, we've talked about for each of the individual members. For the team, everybody gets more involved, they get more committed. More projects are able to be undertaken.
Better communication.
And a greater chance that stuff's going to get done.
Yes.
Right? And increased opportunities to develop leadership skills. And we've talked about that, but let's call it out. Developing leadership skills is really important because if people have a leadership mentality, an owner mentality, the organization is much better off. And that then gives you the opportunity when openings come to put experienced, already proven leadership people into those positions, right? And then lastly, the organization just is more effective. It's pretty amazing. So why is it so hard to delegate then? Well,
What a great question.
It takes a lot of upfront effort. Let's not sugarcoat it. Right?
Absolutely,
it takes some upfront effort. Explaining the process, explaining your thought, explaining the vision, explaining the process. It takes some time. And type A's, you know who you are.
You know who you are.
It's easier to do it myself. Have we heard that before?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yes, for people who have businesses that never grow,
right.
That's what their response.
Well, and sometimes it's more fun to be in charge.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I can do it better myself.
I just listed off some of the top, most respected, highly respected, smartest CEOs on the planet, right? And none of them did it alone.
No.
Brilliant people never did it alone.
One of the other reasons is control issues.
Yeah.
You need to be in the driver's seat,
Yeah.
right? You're risk averse.
Yeah.
You're not going to be successful as an entrepreneur if you're risk averse.
That's true.
Thank you very much. And we'd never done it that way before.
The red flag to challenge any assertion, any process, anything in an organization, I absolutely will call out anytime someone answers a question with, because that's how we've always done it, which means immediately, no matter if that is true for 1 day or 100 years, you need to stop and inspect that process.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
That's the worst answer you can ever give for an organization that wants to be successful.
We've always done
I don't accept that answer.
No, that's almost as bad as
red
spin.
flag number one.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
right.
almost as bad as spin.
That's the business development version of
Right,
spin.
spin.
Like that's that thing that like makes my hair like stand up. Like no, will not accept that as an
launch
answer.
across the table.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to wrap this discussion up with some tips on how to delegate.
Excellent.
Right? Okay. So. Choose the appropriate people by interviewing and placing your members carefully.
Yep.
And this is in the hiring process. Be thinking about this stuff.
It's got to be a corporate culture of development and delegation.
And everybody's got strengths and everybody's got weaknesses. So, the matching people
100%.
is really important. Explain why they were selected to the task. What? They should do what I want them to do. No. People need to understand why they're doing what they're doing.
How that values the process and the end result for the business.
Absolutely. And then delegate chunks when it makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to do, you're responsible now for raising income 10% in the first quarter, right?
Wow, big task.
Right, big task. We'll break it down into little things, right? Into bits and pieces, but meaningful bits and pieces, right?
And manageable.
Right? Not just sweeping off the loading dock, right?
And definitely don't set someone up for failure by giving them the task that is it can't happen.
Right.
All you're going to do is they're going to fail, they're going to get burnout, and it's the opposite of what you're trying to do with delegation, with developing leaders.
Exactly.
For sure.
So it's discouraging.
Yes.
Right, to give somebody too big a chunk. So think in terms of chunks, right? Share the big picture. Not everybody is a visionary. Not everybody understands the vision and mission of the organization. So people like to know where their segment fits into the bigger picture.
Yep.
So share that with them.
Yes.
Help them see that.
It also helps them ask questions and be part of the process. And sometimes those questions, or sometimes that I didn't know that until you told me, reveals to you things that you can do better in the future, internal and external communication.
Absolutely. And then discuss goals and objectives. I can't find my words right now. Anyway, a lot of leaders go, I want you to do it, and I want you to do it this way, and this is what we have to accomplish.
Right.
Have the conversation.
Which is task.
That's tasks. Have the conversation about, what are our goals and what are our objectives? Help the person that you're delegating.
Here's how these tactics work into goals and objectives, and then you get that buy-in, and that's the communication piece that we just discussed. There's so much value in that.
You're absolutely right, and it gives them a voice in decision-making, which is really important.
It goes back to understanding the why.
So then clearly define the responsibilities. Once you've established what the goals and objectives are, explain what's expected and what the boundaries of authority are.
Yes.
Absolutely. We got a whole program on empowerment and authority delegation without authority is just a recipe for failure.
Yes, and expectations without boundary.
Right.
Not creating an expectation, but not explaining it, both so that they know when they've achieved and know when they failed. It's a two-way conversation, two-way street for leadership to set those boundaries and to set those expectations so that the person is effectively focused on what you need them to do for the organization, not simply running around telling people what to do.
Right.
Don't create a bunch of junior bosses.
Not that ensign on the USS Enterprise walking down the hangar bay handing out report chits for people who didn't salute him. That's ridiculous.
Don't create those monsters.
Right. Find out how you're going to know when they need help.
Yes.
And that's really important. That first of all, that your team members know they can come to you for help.
Yep.
Know that there's no disgrace in raising your hand and saying, I don't get this, or I'm overwhelmed.
And it's a concept you have to continually drive home. You can't tell your team one time, I'm here for questions and you blah blah. It has to become part of your culture.
Yeah.
That you are open, and everyone in the chain of command, everyone in the leadership process is open to questions and to revisits of responsibilities, etc. If it becomes part of the culture, then people do it on the regular. They feel comfortable about it, and it gets done. It goes back to that. You can create those incremental increases.
Yep.
If you say it one time and forget it, people will assume that it only was valuable on that day and not today.
Right. Well, the concept, and I had many bosses who operated this way while I was in the Navy, and that is, you're doing okay if you don't hear anything.
Oh, terrible.
Right? People need feedback.
Yeah.
It needs to be honest feedback, but you need to be diplomatic. It needs to be constructive, right?
For sure.
And then my favorite, don't micromanage.
Never micromanage.
I hate it.
No one appreciates it.
Nobody.
No one.
Nobody. Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, if you have someone you 100% believe can't do their job without being micromanaged, you have the wrong person in the role.
The wrong person in the role. Absolutely.
And
maybe they need to rethink their future.
That's right.
With the organization.
And they obviously need to go and find a role somewhere else that fits them better for their skills and aptitudes. So the idea of, I have to micromanage this person, that's a failure in leadership.
That's absolutely a failure in leadership. It's absolutely failure. So, your members are your greatest resource.
For sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Regardless of capital, regardless of other resources, they are your most important resource. So let them create. Let them turn that creativity into new ideas and action.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is through delegation. So there you go.
I like it. I like it a lot. You're right. The way you open the conversation with, people don't talk about this enough, but obviously we've found so many spirals, so many,
Right.
octopus arms here
Right.
of how it affects the organization, coming from the basic idea of delegation. That demonstrates right there the value of delegation.
Absolutely. So we hope that's been helpful to you. Until next time, ciao.
Good luck.
This has been the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend, leave a review, and engage with us on social media. Thanks for listening.